This episode is brought to you by Buy My Stuff on eBay. Yes, you too can buy my stuff from eBay. Simply search for the seller, Tin Dog Podcast, and you can own some rare and collectible items. From the same people who brought you Buy My Books on Amazon. Check the show notes for a direct link.
Scanning for audio.
It is the 31st century. Ulysses killed the giant Cyclops when he rescued the children and his son Telemachus. But the ancient gods of Olympus are angry and threaten a terrible revenge.
Mortals, you defy the gods? I sentence you to travel among unknown stars. Until you find the kingdom of Hades, your bodies will stay as lifeless as stones.
Ulysses, no one else can do the things you do. Ulysses, always fighting all the evil forces, bringing peace and justice to all.
Welcome to another Tin Dog Podcast, part of the Ulysees31 Odyssey, or the Odyssey, it doesn't matter. This is episode 2. Now, episode 2, I'm doing the DVD order because, let's face it, if you own this on DVD, you'll just shove the disc in and you'll play the next one. However, although this is down as Series 1, there was only ever one series, episode 2, fair enough, The Lost Planet, it's actually the 8th one made, and usually the 5th one made, and the 5th one shown. La Planète Perdue would be the French title. Oh yeah, there's going to be a lot of butchering of French titles in this. Get used to it. Now, let's look at, because you know how much I like a synopsis. Numinor is awakened when the Odyssey chances upon a satellite world that has strayed far from its orbit around he and Yumi's home world. Ulysses, Telemachus, Nono, Numinor, Yumi head down to the planet to make the startling discovery that the entire population has been turned to stone by an evil witch. Okay, turned to stone, that's going to be setting off some nice, well, not alarm bells, but it's going to be making you go, hey, yeah, that's Medusa, that is. Somebody's going to be turning to stone. And there's a big, snaky, dragony thing that's a bit Hydra-like, except when you chop the necks off this one, nothing new grows back. So there's always room for more Hydra. Now, they are, strictly speaking, legends from other bits of Greek mythology, but we are in a Greek mythology-based universe. So we can kind of let it go. They probably went, right, we've got to split this into 26. Let's be using stuff. I'm pretty sure there's going to be some other things turning up from myths that aren't linked with the Odyssey, and that's fine. That's more your Greek myths things. So, I've really thrown myself into this. I'm learning more and more about Greek myths because, that's the benefits of a classical education, except, of course, I didn't have a classical education. I just don't have the Latin or the Greek. Moving on. So what we've got a really good first episode, and I'll talk more about that in a minute because there was definitely stuff I forgot to discuss. And then we've got this one. So basically the plot is Blue Elf boy wakes up because they are near another unknown planet. They still have no idea where they are. And, there's a huge virtual reality thing at the beginning where Telemachus is showing off what it's like to ski on Earth. And it's very much like, watching someone play a meta game where you just sort of sat there going, well, they're just sat there and you're just watching something on a screen. Yay, that's exciting. And you do think that bait, let's face it, if it was an episode of Space 1999 or even Star Trek, that bait would reference something happens later on. But no. And yes, her psychic powers are there, and yes, she always talks about her brother Numinor, rather than just her brother, or Numinor. It's weird, but I suppose that's partial translation and partially just so that the audience know exactly who these people are. So that's the opening sequence. Then the new planet turns up. He wakes up and goes, oh no, he's waking up because of the influence of this lost planet. So they find this lost planet. It's not in orbit around a star or anything like that. They don't know how it got there. That's never gone into. Everyone on the planet. It's a bit weird. There's a bit of comic relief with Nono walking around in his rocket leg thing. Yeah, that's You know what? Even when I was 13, I would have been like, "Can we just get on with the plot?" It's a bit lackluster, this episode, to be honest. And I am holding out hope for the rest of this series because I held it in such high regard. But I'm signed up for this. Let's just keep going. It's not a great episode, but if you do want to watch it, obviously there's still a link in the YouTube notes. So just scroll to the bottom and it's the first thing you see, and that'll take you to a link to watch the actual episode. It's only, you see, on IMDb it's got 6.9 out of 10 with 60 votes. And it's not a bad episode by any stretch of the imagination. It's just not brilliant. I'll tell you what, there is great bits. There's some wonderful bits of animation. There's the multi-headed dragony thing, that's Harsh Robot. And then there's the hair on the witch. And all of those things are really cool, animation speaking wise, stuff you don't see elsewhere. The idea of a Hydra thing tying its own necks up, being drawn out. Can you imagine being an animator and being given that information and just going, oh great, there's a lot of things inside and out, and how do we do that? Because in reality, you would just build a thing. But on paper, or not cellophane, what are they called? On cells and things like that. It's just a pain. It's like writing some stage directions of the fight. It's a nightmare. But you've got the flying, you've got the shield use, you've got the laser pistol sword thing, which is, absolutely brilliant. And it's the sort of thing that you don't see until Star Wars Rebels. And let's face it, the lightsaber blaster combo that you see in that is just this, and it's great. I mean, I'm pretty sure I've got one somewhere, but that's not important. What is important is that it's not a brilliant episode, and there's a lot of unanswered questions. I'm going to be signing up for a lot of unanswered questions because it's that whole drifting through space thing. There's the giant ghostly shape of Zeus or one of the earlier gods just watching and observing, just floating there, that everyone else seems to forget at the very end. And I get it. There's lots of nods to other Greek myths, and that's fine, because it's the Athenian Ulysses universe. I'm sure we'll come up with a better name for it in a minute. Something to do with Olympus. The Olympian universe? Yeah, it's okay. It's the Olympian space. Now, it's obviously linked with ours, but it might exist simultaneously on a different dimension, so it might occupy the same space and time. But you know what? I'm thinking of this far, far too much. Hey, this is me. You know it's going to happen like that. People turn to stone, people not turn to stone, people trying to make it to the escape, people without children. Now there's your thing. Okay. Apart from at the very end where they go, hey, we're just going to live here. Are you? What, without a son or anything? And one day we'll have children, yeah. Okay, the scary witch who's fixated on entertaining or spending time with children links back possibly to last week's episode where they were using the energy of children, and perhaps she just loves the sound of laughter, but she doesn't. You don't understand me. No, we do understand you. You're just a bit weird, Mrs. Witch. Yeah. Not a huge fan of this particular story or the witch's motivations or anything like that. And there's that huge thing where suddenly she relaxes and she becomes less terrifyingly, intensely ugly. So yeah, we get that. These are lots of tropes that we'll see for the next 100 years of animation. The turning to stone thing, questionable. Trying to escape thing, I get it. And all the, everyone's on the same side. Everyone just wants to save the children. Oh, and Ulysses is about to get killed. And yeah, I get all that. It's, it's a thoroughly exciting adventure once, the witch actually turns up. Oh, sorry, it's not a Pegasus. Not a Pegasus. It's a flying unicorn. Yeah, and then sometimes it's massive and sometimes it's small and sometimes it just doesn't matter, because nobody really goes into how important it is. I remember Clash of the Titans being around this time, so I will do research on that. Okay, here's the thing I forgot to discuss last time. In this universe, we've got similarities to the original Odysseus myths, but obviously it can't be done the same way. So I have gone back and I'm starting reading the Odyssey. Not read the Iliad, because the Iliad's basically just a massive list of battles in the Trojan Wars. There's no mention of the wars in this. They're just leaving Troy to get back to Earth. We don't know what happened on Troy. I'm imagining it's some sort of setup a bit like Dune. Okay, so what we've got going on here...
Unidentified space vessel has damaged our right rear thrust engine.
Right, I just need to interrupt past self because I need to have a bit of a chat. So, I just started rambling and saying all sorts of nonsense about Greek myths, and that's not what we're here for. So, let's summarise the whole of the Polyphemus story. Odysseus, he leaves Troy, and that's the end of that story, sailing off into the distance. Now, in this story, we get a flashback, the story of Odysseus' ship being washed up on another shore with his crew, and his crew find some sheep. And the sheep have a shepherd, and the shepherd captures them because the shepherd happens to be a massive cyclops called Polyphemus, okay? Starts eating some of the crew, puts them in his cave, big boulder over the door that only the cyclops can move, and that's them. And they start getting a bit worried. But Odysseus, being a wily person, let's face it, they say he's quite wise, goes up to the Cyclops and says, okay, I'm going to give you lots to drink. And the shepherd goes, yeah, that's great, let's have some of that. And who's this person giving me something to drink? Now, Odysseus rather cleverly says, my name is No One. Yeah. So they become friends, and then eventually he's drunk, he's passed out, and Odysseus has found a big stick, which he's sharpened. Then he goes up to the Cyclops and stabs him in the eye, blinding him. Not pleasant, not nice. And then he wakes up, obviously in pain, shouting, oh my God, someone's blinded me. And the other Cyclopses on the island, oh yeah, there's more than one, come running and go, who's blinded you? And of course he goes with the name. And the name is No One. No one's blinded me. And the other Cyclopses go, what? And then rather than checking, because they're dim, they turn around and go home. So he's still blind. Now, there's still the problem of how to get out of the cave. So Odysseus ends up strapping himself to the bottom of sheep. Yeah, I know. And then they come out of the cave that way, and that's how they get away. But as he's standing at the cave, Odysseus goes, hey, my name's not No One, my name's Odysseus, which is his big mistake. Because the Cyclops goes, hey, you're called Odysseus. I'm going to get my dad on you. Oh yeah, says Odysseus as he rides off into the distance to the ship to escape. Yeah, because my dad's Poseidon, Lord of the Sea, and you're a sailor on a ship. That's going to go down well. So that ship ends up being shipwrecked by Poseidon, who's just a bit, miffed. And then Ulysses ends up on an island where this nymph looks after him and imprisons him and can't escape, and he ends up being sad and looking out to sea in a kind of a TV commercial for perfume kind of a way. So that's the original build-up for this story. Yes, there's a Cyclops. Yes, Poseidon's the one who's pissed off. Yes, that kind of thing. There's a lot of similarities, but in this one, in the original episode 1, it's a bit different. Also, Telemachus is still in, Odysseus' hometown, trying to sort out his mother's stuff. We can deal with that storyline later on, Penelope and things, and the suitors and all of that nonsense. I'm sure we'll get round to it. But Telemachus isn't in the story at that point. He goes on his own quest to find his father in Homer's original. Okay, so that's where we're at. Now, I'm going to end up stopping now, and I'm going to play the full version of the Ulysses theme tune. Warning you now, it's a bit of an earworm. It'll get into your head. I suggest you skip it, to be honest, because it'll totally do your head in for the rest of the week. So, I'm sorry I had to interrupt past self me from rambling, but to be honest, he was just going on a bit and getting a bit annoying, and it made no sense. Right, until next time, be seeing you.
Ulysses, Ulysses, soaring through all the galaxies in search of her, flying into the night. Ulysses, no one else can do the things you do. Ulysses, always fighting all the evil forces, bringing peace and justice to all.
That was the Tin Dog Podcast. All topics discussed are the intellectual property of the copyright owners. No infringement is intended. Why not follow the show on Blue Sky at tindogpodcast.bsky.social. If you've enjoyed this podcast on YouTube, please click like and subscribe. To contact the show, email tin-dog@hotmail.co.uk. The Tin Dog Podcast is a founder member of the Doctor Who Podcast Alliance.